Ooh, hello, hello. And am I live? Let's double check. You know, I always love to double check those notifications. Again, given I'm a one-man band here, so far notifications are taking a while to show up. So I hope everyone is having a fabulous day. Oh, it looks like I have a viewer here. Perfect. Now I am live on the Janome Canada. I should be live on Janome Canada Facebook, Janome America Facebook, and
Taking a while.
yes,
Canada,
Janome America YouTube channel and Janome HQ, which is our Janome Canada YouTube channel. So yes, fantastic. I am here live. Yay. Let's turn down that phone. Thank you everyone so much for joining me today. Can you believe it? It is the last Friday of August. Where has the summer gone? But again, no matter what the weather is, no matter what time of year, oh, isn't it a perfect time to just stay inside and sew? So hello, everyone. Oh, it's great. I love to see who's coming in here. Again, I always like to get on a little early just to make sure everybody can get situated. And oh my gosh, Evelyn from Scotland. Hello, hello. And Sharon from Dover, Delaware. Okay. And Sherry's from Connecticut. And wonderful. Oh my gosh, from Ohio. That is fabulous. And I know I will be joined by some of our Janome Canada audience as well, because, you know, we always follow Janome America as well, given, you know, we're trying to become Janome North America as we share so many resources. And again, our fabulous educator Celine from Montreal and myself, you know, we participate in these Janome America lives. So it's wonderful to be here again to share the Janome love with everybody. So yes, hello everyone. Hello, Sarah from Ohio. Hello. Yes, I am Michael Smith, the National Education Manager of Janome Canada. Oh yes, and Barb is here from Kitchener, Ontario, Canada, not too far from me. So yes, I am Michael Smith, the National Education Manager of Janome Canada. I'm back live from my palatial estate here in Collingwood, Ontario. Oh, I'm about 2 hours north of Toronto, and I'm very happy to be here. This will be loaded to the Janome Continental Club Facebook group once this live is over. Oh my gosh, it's 8 p.m. in Ireland. Thank you so much, Francis, for joining me here today. Because then, yes, we're going to talk about fonts in our fabulous Janome, in our fabulous Janome embroidery machine our sewing machine in our Continental, specifically the CM17 is what I'm going to be showing you today. And I'm sorry with my big thumb, I just have to flip my camera. There we go. There we go. Now, all of our fabulous Janome Continental machines will be able to do this exact step. So it doesn't have to be the CM17 sewing, quilting, and embroidery. But, you know, again, all of our other Continental machines, we can do exactly what I'm going to share with you today. And a number of our Janome machines, regardless of which model you have, they're able to stitch fonts. So I'm going to give you a little tips and tricks here. So again, for our embroidery machines, and yes, our CM17 is a sewing, quilting, embroidery combo machine. I embroidered this label here for my quilts. So beautiful. Again, very fun to do. You just set it all up and let the machine do its thing. So embroidery, yes, no problem. Of course, we always think of fonts for embroidery. But look at what our beautiful Janome sewing machines can do. So many of our machines are combos like the CM17 here, or again, even if you've got a you know, 3160 QDC or a Skyline machine, you know, they can all stitch fonts as well. Great time to use. This is some of that Madeira multicolor thread. Isn't that beautiful? So yes, we can totally stitch fonts in many of our Janome machines. Now, again, we're already the last Friday of August, so we're heading into back to school especially. So I purchased this hat very inexpensively from the discount store. But how about, again, we personalize it with some of the decorative stitches in our machines. And for the kids going back to school in particular, how about you put your names on everything? So again, not only the kids will be able to retrieve it if they happen to lose it, but again, when you personalize things like this, when you embroider their names, stitch their names down, they really do feel like more of a pride, a sense of ownership. So hopefully they're going to keep track of these items. Can you stitch the fonts with the 15,000? Oh, yes, of course. The 15,000 is a sewing quilting embroidery machine. It's got many fonts built into the sewing portion of the machine, not just embroidery. So again, double check in the back of your instruction manual where all of the stitches will be, and you'll be able to see the fonts included in your machine. So again, we can personalize it here with the child's name, maybe add in some decorative stitching. Great, just on the hat band as it is. So that's a really good way to customize. And again, when we want to send the kids off to school, maybe, you know, elementary school or university, college, wherever, or maybe even for yourself. This are 2 hand towels I purchased very inexpensively from the discount store, and I made a shoe bag here. And then again, I stitch with the fonts. In this case, they stitched out, and again, 2 little decorative stitches built into the machine. This beautiful dragonfly was also created in the machine using the elongation function. And then I did this applique again with blanket stitch. Super simple to do, but again, where we can customize and personalize with our fonts. Now, there's little tips and tricks that you need to use when we are stitching out fonts, which I'm going to go through. Again, another great use of fonts. I don't know about you, but in my house, my partner can never seem to remember which tea towel do I use to dry my hands and which tea towel do we use to dry the dishes. So here, again, inexpensively purchased these hand towels, tea towels from the discount store, and I just stitched out hands, 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 hands. So he knows this is the hand towel. And then this one I stitched out, I'm in the process of, again, dishes, 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 dishes. So he knows which one. Now, again, as I mentioned, little tips and tricks, when we stitch our fonts, they are decorative stitches. So we definitely need, they're a little beefier, they're a little heavier. So we definitely need things like stabilizer behind our projects. So I'm going to go through that. You'll see I've got a couple of different types of stabilizer that I'll show you in just a moment. I got to clear my decks here. So yes, our fonts. Let's get into it. So the fonts built into our machine, and again, all of our Continental machines have these fonts. And again, I'm on the CM17 here in particular, but again, check what machine you have. If various machines, you know, they have different modes of stitching. Here in my CM17, we just click the AA, that's for our fonts, and boom, all of the fonts built into our machine. And again, how simple and easy it is to create whatever kind of label we want. So here, for example, we can do lowercase, we can do uppercase. In the CM17's case in particular, whatever is blue is active. So we can do small lettering or large lettering. So very simple to do. So again, I always type in Janome, Janome, boom, done. So simple. But we can customize and do a little bit more. Sometimes with these fonts, they can stitch very... Oh, there we go. They can stitch a little dense, a little close together. So sometimes what I like doing, depending on the project and depending on the thickness of your fabric, you might be stitching this in your quilt, for example, if you want to sign your name in your quilt binding, for example. These fonts, you know, can stitch out quite close together. So we can always add a little space. Now, this is a little space, a medium space, and a big space. So in order to add that in between our letters, like, again, how simple is that? It just gives a little daylight in between the lettering. And again, what that looks like, that's exactly what I did here. I added a little space in between each of these letters, just as I have here on my LCD screen. And particularly as the kids are learning to dress themselves, and again, maybe in their garments, this will say back. So they know that, you know, the tag goes to the back, or that, again, with their name, they might be able to read it a little better when there is space in between. So that is always an option, just to add, again, a little daylight in between. But then we can do more, of course. So we can combine it with other decorative stitches in the machine. So in this case, I'm just going to move my cursor down. And then let's go up to our decorative stitch category in this case. And we can scroll through all of our stitches. I love these little lifestyle, again, the little clothing line I think is so cute. Now, speaking of clothing, you know, when my grandmother went off to her home, her, you know, care facility, we needed to put labels, her name in all of her garments so the laundry could return her garments. So this is a great time to add in labels. This is the Janome Continental CM17. Sewing, quilting, and embroidery. Boom. But again, all of our Continental machines have these same fonts, these same stitches, or again, very close to it. They may not have exactly all as the CM17, but they have a lot of them. And again, they've got fonts built in, so we can add in some decorative stitches to our fonts. And to make it even extra easy, again, let's let the machine do some work for us. We can program this lock stitch, this LS. So after this whole stitch pattern is created, we program that lock stitch, so then it's going to complete that one row and finish automatically. If we go into the settings of our machine, we can even program it so after that lock stitch, the threads can cut automatically. And again, we can program many of our Janome machines to do that with the little scissor button. Here in the CM17 and the Continental machines, we'll go into the little cog to set up our scissors automatically to cut after that lock stitch. Or again, in other machines, we record it in the memory and then it will cut the threads after that lock stitch. So again, the machine does a lot of the work for us. Now you'll see here on the LCD screen, it is recommending the F foot. And we have many options from which to choose. Now on your machine automatically is that regular universal A foot, which I stitched out up here, this Janome Love. And it looks okay, but it's like, ooh, it wrinkled up my fabric quite a bit. The stitches look a little more squished. And that's because that A foot is a completely flat foot. We don't want to use that foot for decorative stitches and fonts. Again, fonts are decorative stitches, so we don't want to use that A foot. It's just going to flatten it out. This was with the F foot, and again, it's stitched out way better. So as I mentioned, stabilizer, that's definitely going to make a big difference in the success of your fonts. So little cutoffs like this, again, when we're embroidering in particular, I love saving. When we, again, are embroidery, maybe you've got a 550E, maybe you've got the CM17, Skyline S9, whichever, all these little, you see these little cutoffs that I'm going to have at the end of my embroidery. That's what I save. And that's what we can use to put underneath our fabric to stitch out our fonts. In this case, I'll bring back my dishcloth here. So what I did underneath here is, again, my tearaway. In this case, we could also do an iron on stabilizer or interfacing. I'm using my fabulous 4-inch mini duckbill scissors, and we can tear it away, or I like to trim it away just like that. Trim nice and close to the stitching. This we can get rid of. But again, isn't that beautiful? Now, specifically when I'm going to terry cloth, I'm going to put a layer of, because it's got like a looped pile with the terry cloth. So if you're going to monogram towels, for example, this is a couple of different types of, of a water soluble stabilizer. This one is a nice heavy water-soluble stabilizer. These were the leftovers from the Sew for Home hobby patches that we at Janome Canada did. And again, there was the patch in the middle, and I saved these cutoffs of the water-soluble stabilizer. This is an excellent topper to put on top. We would still use the, in this case, the tearaway, or again, there's an iron-on interfacing or iron-on stabilizer. Oh, I don't know if you'll be able to see. It's got a little bit of the glue dots. It's a little bit reflective there. So you would iron this on your project. Now, some of the iron-ons are tearaway, as this is, or some of the iron-ons are specifically to stay there. For garments especially, you want to use a stabilizer that's going to stay there permanently. Kind of the rule of thumb is if you wear it, don't tear it. So the stabilizer would stay permanently. In this case, they're just little dish towels. I could have used a permanent stabilizer in this. Again, I just had the tear away quickly. So that's what I used. And then, yes, the water-soluble stabilizer I laid on top. And again, with my fabulous Janome mini duckbill scissors, I could trim very closely. It will rip away ultimately, and then whenever I wash this, it'll all disappear. The stabilizer will disappear in between. You can see a little bit of that sheen maybe where the stabilizer is still in between there. But once this is washed, it'll disappear. So it definitely makes a big difference to the success of your project using the correct stabilizer to support all the density of the extra stitching. So again, I mentioned the F foot is the satin stitch foot. It comes with many of our Janome machines, and it has this little bar across, and there's a little red tick mark to indicate the center of the foot. But the main purpose of these feet is, again, it has that groove on the bottom side. So it has metal on either side, so it slides on the fabric very easily, but it has this groove to allow those decorative stitches to form and pass underneath very easily. So this is the F2 foot. Many of our machines come with this as well. And again, it's the open toe, so you've got a little bit better visibility. There is a little tick mark up here that shows the center of the foot. And again, that groove on the underside, so it will pass through beautifully. So let's just click this on very easily. And again, that tearaway stabilizer. Now, if one layer isn't enough, oh, well, easily you can put in a second layer, and you just do your little test samples like this. It doesn't have to be anything particularly beautiful, but you're just doing your testing here. So let me hang up my threads, hold on to them however you'd like to start your threads. And away we go. It's that simple to do. You can program. Now check your instruction manual of your machine. Many of our machines, they might have a memory capability of 50 stitch patterns, 100 stitch patterns, 150 stitch patterns. So double check with your instruction manual how many stitch patterns that you can ultimately record, save in the memory, and how you can do this once and then have this label stitch out as many times as you wish. Now, again, in my CM17 here in our Continental machines, I could have programmed in my settings that after that lock stitch, my scissors would automatically engage. I personally have that switched off right now in my settings, but I could have activated that, in which case, boom, there it is. Look how beautiful that's stitched out. And you can see from the example above, this I used one layer of stabilizer. This I used 2 layers of that tearaway stabilizer, and the 2 layers definitely supported those stitches better. That's not bad, but this is better. So you experiment. How many layers of stabilizer? What type of stabilizer do you need? Oh, I'm sorry to keep hitting the camera. It's so hard to stitch with the camera in front of you. But look on the backside. Now, when I studied fashion design in college many years ago, my sewing instructor said, The inside of the garment must look as good as the outside of the garment. And this is how I feel about embroidery and how I feel about, again, these fonts. Chances are no one's going to see the back of them. But again, it does not look beautiful. The Janome stitch quality. And again, 2 layers of stabilizer. Yes, I agree, Jean. 2 layers of stabilizer, much better. So this is why you do your little test samples, just to make sure it is good. Now, there's more we can do. So that is our regular fonts. But you know, Janome always lets us do more. So here we can see in this little window, this little magnifying glass, this is where we can see all of our stitch patterns that we can create. We can do label after label after label after label. So you double check again your instruction manual, but it's that little magnifying glass. Now you will see here in my CM17, and we have this feature in the Continental machines, this hand stitch style. So this is very fun. With the CM17 here, we can manipulate our lettering. So I just stitched it out. It's all beautiful. But when I hit this hand stitch style, right now it's off, but I can activate it. And if you can see in the LCD screen here, my letters are going a little, let's hit all. My letters are going a little wonky now. Can you see that? And I can go a little more. Do you see my little laundry line as well? It's really quite a wonky. And whenever we want to do anything, we want to hit OK. Now, again, the hand stitch style icon is that one little leaf, and then it goes over to the little other leaf that's a little wonky. Maybe you can see that in my LCD screen. And the fun thing about the hand stitch style, again, it looks like we've stitched it by hand. So it's maybe not as perfect as the decorative stitches normally, as we normally want them to stitch out. But it's very fun, I think, again, especially for back to school for the kids, or maybe for upcoming for Halloween. And we're going to stitch out some Halloween, Happy Halloween on labels, on napkins or something like that. And we could use this hand stitch style to make our lettering a little bit more unique, a little bit more special. And again, the hand stitch style is exclusive to the Continental machines. Although now I think, oh, maybe the 9480 has it as well. I would have to double check on that. But isn't that fun? So there you will see my regular line of stitching, but here's my hand stitch style of fonts. And look how that O in particular is a little weird, a little wonky. The E's a little wonky, the little laundry lines a little wonky. So it's just kind of fun that it's cool to do. Again, our machines can do so much. So even with fonts, we have there for that hand stitch style in some of the fonts. So that's really fun. Now, something else we can do with our fabulous Continental machines, we can use the power of AccuFeed. This is the dual feed foot holder here. And as it comes, standard, this is the dual or twin holder with the AD foot. And again, the power of AccuFeed with those upper set of feed teeth. So the clip here goes into the upper feeding mechanism of the machine. There's a little bar back here that clips into the upper feeding of the machine. And there, those upper set of feed teeth help feed all the layers together. So the cool thing about the Continental machines is we have a separate AccuFeed motor. So now we can use AccuFeed with virtually every stitch in the machine. It's not the regular AccuFeed button, but we need to go into our functions menu, which I will show you in just a moment. So now as a review, we have our manual to review, or here on the Continental machines in our information tab, the little question mark, is how do I attach this AccuFeed Flex foot holder? We have that built in to the machine, so you can review your steps here. But just as a quick little overview, I have my finger here at the back. That clip is holding it onto the upper feeding bar at the back of the machine. I've dropped my foot, and now I'm really going to turn that screw in the foot holder. I'm going to give it an extra little quarter turn at least to really lock it in. Our Continental machines stitch at 1,300 stitches per minute, very fast. So we definitely want to click that in. Again, hold our finger at the back to keep that bar in place. And then that way the hook in place in the bar, and never is this foot holder going to come unclipped. Now, I really like putting the foot holder on my foot here on the presser foot bar, because then when I clip these out, the cool thing about AccuFeed Flex, again, we can do different feet. So here is the regular AD foot. But then again, if we want better visibility, we could use the OD foot, which is the open toe AccuFeed Flex foot. And it helps having the foot holder. It acts like a third hand. The foot holder is already installed in the machine. We just line up the little pins and click. It's that simple to change out very easily. So then why we would want to use this? Oh, let's say here again in our quilt sandwich, we have our backing, our batting, in between the, backing, batting, and the quilt top. So we have extra layers. So in this case, I stitched it out with red thread. I hope you could all see it on the pink, where it says, again, like Janome circular sewing, which is the circular sewing attachment here. So in this case, I stitched it to identify what this is. This is one of the samples I use. And then again, this is ruler work. So I stitched in Janome, oops, I stitched in Janome ruler work. And again, it looks beautiful on the back side as well. And it fed beautifully through all these thicker layers because of using this AccuFeed Flex foot holder. So the joy of our Continental machines, again, they can do so much more for us. When people say, why do I upgrade to these fancy machines? Why are these machines so expensive? Well, we can do so much with them. So the cool thing is, if we were to activate our normal AccuFeed, we would be activating this little icon there with the 3 triangles and the 2 little lines. That's our regular AccuFeed activation, and you'll see all the decorative stitches have disappeared. My fonts have disappeared. We cannot use them with the AccuFeed, except for our Continental machines. Oh, we can go up here to the functions menu, the 3 little lines on our Continental M7, for example. It's over at the side here, but the 3 little lines is our functions menu, and we're going to manual dual feed. We're going to turn it on. Now, there it is turned on. It's in blue. We know it's active. We can adjust the rate of the AccuFeeding here directly on our LCD screen. On other machines, it was a little dial at the side, but now it's here on the LCD screen. Whenever we're going to change the settings of our machines, make you sure you click OK. And now, oh, look, I've got my zigzag stitches back. I've got my decorative stitches back. I have my fonts back. So even though the LCD screen still says the F foot, the regular F foot, I've turned on that manual dual feed. So now we have the power of AccuFeed being able to stitch out our fonts. So I wanted to also go, again, time is of the essence. So when we're going to save our fonts in this case, so here I'm going to stitch this Janome label time and time and time again. Whenever we're going to save, we're going to use the folder with the arrow going in. We click that. We can click on the little pencil to retitle it. Oh, before I do that, very importantly, where do I want to save this file? I could save it. It defaults to the memory of the machine, but I really prefer to save it to a USB flash drive. In the CM17 here, we've got 2 flash drive ports. In this case, my flash drive is already inserted into the machine. It's in the USB port number 2. Now I'm going to rename it. And in this case, I could just do test, test 3, let's say. Perfect. So we can add a new name, we click OK, and then where are we going to save our file? Now here you'll see I've got embroidery files and I've got ORD is ordinary sewing files. So when we have a USB flash drive, we insert it into the machine for the first time, and that populates these folders. The embroidery folder and the ORD is ordinary sewing. So in this case, I'm going to do ordinary sewing, since I'm using just the regular fonts in the stitching portion of the machine, the sewing portion of the machine. So I'm going to save that in the ORD folder. You'll see I have a number of files already there. I can go further into my ORDF folder. I already have a few other things saved there, so I will click OK. That's my destination. Now, when I go to retrieve a file, then we insert the USB stick into the machine, and there's the file folder with the arrow going out. So I click that. Again, where did I save that file? It defaults, the machine again defaults to the machine icon of the machine, but I didn't save it to the machine. I saved it, in this case, USB flash drive. It's in number 2 port. Did I save it to an embroidery folder? No, I saved it to the ORD folder, which is there. And then you'll see maybe it says JCS. Those are stitches some of them I created with the Stitch Composer software, which is very fun. But there are stitches, our embroidery files are JEF, J-E-F. The stitches are JCS, regular stitches. And again, I'm in my ORDF folder. There is my test 3. Boom, there it is. So how perfect is that? Now I've already saved another thing that I'm now going to stitch out. I called it label. There it is, Janome decorative stitches. And again, I added a little space in between. And here on my little sample, I'm going to stitch out Janome decorative stitches. And again, I have the power of, let me slow the machine down a little. Do you see? I have the power of AccuFeed. Those upper feed teeth are moving my fabric beautifully. I don't know if you can see that. I hate zooming in because sometimes that goes wonky with the phone. But yes, those upper set of feed teeth are moving. So if you are wondering why I'm using my AccuFeed FlexFoot and my upper set of feed teeth here are not working, it's you either didn't engage the AccuFeed the traditional way with the 3 little triangles and the 2 lines, if you're just doing regular straight stitching. If you want to do decorative stitching with your AccuFeed FlexFoot on your Continental machines, you have to go into, again, your functions menu and stitch out or turn on the manual dual feed. And I'm just going to go a little faster so this can stitch out. And then you can see I'm just barely guiding my fabric, trying to keep it straight, the edge of the binding with the little toe of this open toe foot. And it stitches so beautifully. So if you're gonna, again, sign your name in, stitch your name in the quilt binding, that's especially good if you're going off to a show and you're worried about, somebody's gonna steal your quilt. It's maybe not gonna make it back to you. There we go. Then you can stitch it in the binding. No one's going to take the time to cut all those stitches and remove your binding. So there we go. Let me just remove that thread. I love these 4-inch mini duckbill scissors. And there we go. Janome decorative stitches. Again, it's maybe a little hard to see in red, but Again, beautiful on the back. It fed perfectly, and it did so because, again, that power of AccuFeed, and that's the joy of the Continental machines, all of them, not just the CM17. Again, the functions menu here that we go in and turn on the manual dual feed, and that way we can use that AccuFeed Flex foot holder for almost every stitch in the machine. Now, after I've done this stitching, I'm now going to turn it off. I don't need it anymore. If you leave it on and then you go back into some of your other stitches and go, hey, why can't I sew a button on specifically? This is a stitch you can't use with manual dual feed, is that buttonhole stitch. And if you try to do that with the manual dual feed still engaged, you'll wonder, where's my buttonhole? Why can't I do that button sewing foot? Well, again, it's that manual dual feed is still engaged. So there is a nutshell, so quick, of the various fonts that you can stitch out in your fabulous Janome machine. Again, so many of them can do it. There we go. So many of our Janome machines can stitch out fonts. Again, it's a great way to personalize, customize, keep track of everything. And again, the joy of our fabulous Continental machines, we've got that separate AccuFeed motor, so we can engage that manual dual feed and stitch our fonts through, again, tote bags, quilts, quilt labels, thicker layers, winter coats, our thick wool fabric, that we can stitch through those layers using the power of AccuFeed when we engage that manual dual feed. So thank you, everyone, so much for joining me today. It's lovely to be here on Janome Sewing Machines, Janome Continental Club, and I look forward to seeing you, in September. That's right around the corner. I'll be back more for some more live presentations. So thank you, everyone, so much, and have a fabulous Labor Day. Happy sewing. Bye.